Do you know you have one of the top 10 highest attending Canadian matches of all time for your match with Hogan in Montreal?
Yeah.
21,800 at the Forum. It was one of the top all-time
Uh,
Canadian attendance records for wrestling. Do you even remember that match, or were you wrestling Hogan so much that day? It's just another night.
no, those are the days. It was a piece of cake wrestling Hogan. Those are nights off. The wrestling business has changed. He changed the whole thing. And you go back and listen to some of his interviews now, and you see his mindset of how he was, protecting himself and how he was taking care of his business. And everybody had a different mindset. The old timers, which I came pretty much. I was an old school mindset and didn't have like he and Piper were, pushing themselves.
Yeah.
And have that thing going, and it was guys who were separated. And it was, and you look at it now as well, wow, these guys are really they're on a mission. And it was a good idea, and wrestling changed. It became commercialized, yeah.
How many times do you think you wrestled Hogan?
God, I don't know.
You had basically a feud that, if it was today, it would have been on one of the pay-per-views, but because there was only 3 pay-per-views a year at that time.
I wrestled him I think 3 times in every
town.
every major city. Probably missed a couple, but
Were you friends with Hogan?
we were friendly. I wasn't one of his boys. Well, Jimmy was pretty electric, though.
Oh God,
Jimmy was like a natural. He could work, and regardless of what.
Rocky Johnson actually told me that he could have been Hulk Hogan if it wasn't for that incident in Dark Side of the Ring. He said that in some towns
He was over.
He
He was like over like Hogan.
yeah.
He was like over like nobody's business, but he didn't have the gray matter to carry it through like Hulk. Hulk had a whole different attitude, making money and everything else. Where Snuka was, pretty much into Snuka,
Yeah.
and he loved being a star, loved being a wrestler. Hogan was, investing money and growing exponentially. And Hogan had a different. Hogan and Vince, that marriage there was the one that that was when wrestling kind of changed. I mean, there always was a top guy, and you'd work to put the top guy over. But with the New York TV and where their TV and everything fell in line, and just worked where he was, he was a focal point, and you could just work with him and bring in on the same premise like it was before, where they bring in a heel to work with the champion every 6 months or 3 months or whatever it was. But it was, but Hulk was a whole different character. Could carry those 10-minute interviews and 10-minute speeches in the ring, just go on and on and on, keep talking, and it just, was a big change.
If you're about to wrestle Hogan, is there any type of pre-match discussion, or is it just let's talk about it in the ring, and then if you're wrestling 3 months in a row, you just basically know the finish, and you just go in and do it?
Well, whatever they want, yeah, it just changes. You get together, you probably, scratch out something, you don't want to repeat yourself from Philly to Baltimore or something like that,